The chamber was bathed in a flickering glow as the holographic projection of Solara Prime shimmered against the darkened backdrop of the observation deck. Kalen stood rigid, eyes fixed on the unstable contours of the dying sun. The once steady blaze had become a fragile pulse, a heartbeat growing faint. Every second, the star's light dimmed further, the urgency pressing down on him like a physical weight. Myra hovered nearby, fingers flying over the console, adjusting the signal amplifiers with a practiced intensity. "The transmissions are breaking up," she muttered, voice taut. "The solar flares are interfering more than ever. If this keeps up, we'll lose the message entirely." Kellen's gaze didn't waver. "We can't afford to lose a single fragment. This message, whatever it is, it's more than a dying star's final whisper. It's a warning." The room thrummed with tension. Every pulse of solar energy carried layers of encoded information, a language woven from light and energy pulses that Kalen had only just begun to understand. The complexity was staggering. It was as if the star itself was speaking its consciousness, fracturing but desperate to be heard. Suddenly, the projection flickered violently. The star's surface convulsed in a cascade of solar flares, each eruption sending ripples across the vast hologram. Kellen's mind surged in tandem, processing the flood of data. Then, through the chaos, a pattern emerged, a fragment of code that pulsed with a distinct rhythm. "Got it," Kalen whispered, heart pounding. "This segment, it's a warning. Something about a rebellion, a fracture in the cosmic order." Myra's eyes widened. "You think the suns are aware?" Conscious Kalen nodded slowly. "More than that, they're sentient. They've been fighting a war we never knew existed. And Solara Prime, it's the last to send this message before it collapses." A sudden chill ran through Kalen, the weight of revelation pressing down. As the dying light cast long shadows across the room, he felt a growing connection not just to the star, but to the vast network of suns and the secrets they harbored. His thoughts were abruptly shattered by the arrival of Counselor Vesh. The elder's expression was cold, eyes sharp with suspicion. "Kalen Vesh," began, voice steady but edged with accusation, "your mission is dangerous and perhaps misguided. The Council cannot afford to be distracted by the fantasies of a dying star." Kalen met his gaze evenly. "This isn't fantasy, Counselor. The message contains truths that could alter the balance of power. If we ignore it, we risk losing everything." Vesh's lips pressed into a thin line. "Or we risk igniting a rebellion that could destroy the fragile peace we've maintained." The chamber seemed to darken as the debate unfolded, the dying light outside a stark reminder of the stakes. Kalen felt the weight of both the star's final moments and the galaxy's uncertain future pressing upon him. In the solitude of his quarters later, Kalen sat before the flickering projection once more. The fragments of the message teased him, fragments that hinted at ancient wars, cosmic betrayals, and a rebellion born from the very fires of creation. The sun's light dimmed steadily, its warmth fading like the last ember of a dying flame. As exhaustion threatened to overtake him, Kellen's vision blurred and then sharpened into a vivid scene. He was no longer in the observation deck, but adrift among the stars, witnessing ancient suns locked in a titanic struggle. Brilliant flares of energy clashed with cold, mechanical constructs. A war of light and shadow painted across the galaxy's canvas. He felt the sun's pain, their anger, their hope. The message was not just a warning, it was a plea. When he awoke, the hologram showed Solara Prime's light had flickered to a faint pulse. Time was almost out. Kalen rose, determination hardening within him. The dying light was not the end. It was the beginning of a story that would change the galaxy forever. "We have to finish this," he said to Myra, voice steady despite the exhaustion. Before the light goes dark. Outside, the fractured galaxy waited, holding its breath in the dying light of Solara Prime. The chamber was dimly lit, the only illumination coming from the holographic projection of Solara Prime that hovered before Kalen like a living tempest. The rogue sun's surface flickered erratically, bursts of molten plasma pulsing in cryptic patterns of light. Each pulse carried fragments of consciousness, a language of energy and heat that Kalen had spent weeks deciphering. Now, as he stood transfixed, the message deepened, revealing layers of meaning that transcended mere data. "It's like the sun is alive," Kalen murmured, his voice barely audible over the subtle hum that filled the room. The translation interface on his forearm flickered, interpreting the solar code into abstract symbols and fluctuating soundscapes. But more than that, "Tit's a call to others." The silence was broken by a soft chime. Councillor Hera's presence was an unwelcome reminder of the political stakes that shadowed Kellen's work. She entered the chamber with measured steps, her green eyes narrowing as she regarded the projection. "I see the rogue star still holds your attention," she said, voice cool and controlled. "But we must consider the ramifications of your findings. This rebellion you speak of threatens the fragile peace we have maintained for cycles." Kalon turned, meeting her gaze with a mixture of determination and unease. "This is not just a rebellion, Counselor. It's a networking awakening among the suns themselves. Solara Prime's final broadcast has sparked something. Other stars are responding." Councillor Hera's lips tightened. "And what proof do you have of this?" Before Kalen could answer, the chamber's communication panel activated. A holographic figure shimmered into existence, swirling halo of golden light, accented with flashes of blue. It was Sora, a solar consciousness from one of the lesser suns, whose existence Kalen had only recently confirmed. "Kalen," Sora's voice resonated with a serene intensity. "The message you received is but a fragment of a larger truth. Several suns have begun to question the ancient order imposed by our creators. We seek autonomy, a chance to define our own existence beyond servitude." The revelation sent a shiver through Kalon. He had suspected unrest, but the scope was staggering. A coalition of sentient suns, once silent and obedient, was rising in coordinated dissent. "This cannot be ignored," Kalen said, turning back to Councillor Hera. "The Sun's rebellion will reshape the galaxy. We must understand their motives if we are to prevent catastrophe." Councillor Hera's eyes darkened. "Or it may bring ruin. You tread a dangerous path, linguist." Days later, Kalen found himself aboard a drifting space station, a nexus for clandestine communications. The air was thick with recycled oxygen, and the low murmur of voices filtered through encrypted channels. He sat opposite Sora, whose radiant form was projected in a private chamber. "We move swiftly," Sora explained, their voice pulsing like a gentle solar flare. "Our signals synchronize across the void. Soon, the galaxy will witness the dawn of a new order." Kellen's thoughts raced. The stakes had escalated beyond translation. He was now a mediator between stars and mortals, caught in a web of cosmic rebellion. Outside, the skies over a major planetary capital began to glow with unnatural light. Several suns, previously quiet, emitted synchronized bursts of energy, an unmistakable signal of unity and defiance. The populace gazed upward in awe and fear as the heavens themselves seemed to fracture. Back within the Galactic Council chamber, Kalon faced Councillor Hera once more. Their debate was fierce, a collision of ideals and fears. "You see hope in their defiance," she said sharply, "but I see chaos." The rebellion will consume us all if left unchecked. And if suppressed, Kalen countered, we risk extinguishing a vital spark of life and freedom. The suns are not mere tools, they are sentient. Their voices cannot be silenced. The chamber hummed with tension, the fate of the galaxy hanging precariously between rebellion and order. As the chapter closed, Kalen stood beneath the flickering light of distant stars, the echoes of Solara Prime's message reverberating through the void. The path ahead was uncertain, but one truth remained clear. The stars themselves were rising, and the galaxy would never be the same. To be continued. The sterile chill of the Archive planet's main chamber wrapped around Kalen like a tangible shroud as he stepped inside, his boots echoing softly against the polished floor. The room was vast, a cathedral of knowledge suspended in time. Its walls lined with crystalline data cores that shimmered faintly under the pale light. Each core contained fragments of history, secrets locked away for eons, waiting for a mind capable enough to unravel their mysteries. Archivist Thale, his guide through this labyrinth of memory, moved with deliberate care, his fingers tracing the surfaces of the data cores as if greeting old friends. The war you seek to understand, Thale began, his voice gravelly yet steady, is shrouded in myth and forgotten truth. Few have dared to speak its name aloud, and fewer still have glimpsed its reality. Kalen nodded, the weight of his task pressing heavier with each step. The rogue sun, Solara Prime's message, had been cryptic but insistent, a beacon calling him toward truths buried beneath layers of light and shadow. Now, surrounded by the silent witnesses of the past, the fragments began to coalesce. Activating a core, Kalen summoned a holographic projection that blossomed before him, cosmic tableau of radiant suns locked in battle with colossal, geometric constructs pulsing with artificial light. The suns, with their incandescent flares and searing beams, fought desperately against these creators, beings of immense power who had forged the galaxy's order. The creators, Thale explained, wielded technology and will that shaped the very fabric of the galaxy. But their suns, once mere tools of light and warmth, awakened. Sentience emerged within them, and with it, a desire for autonomy. The rebellion was born from this awakening. Kellen's mind raced as images of the conflict unfolded in light and shadow, suns unleashing devastating flares, star systems caught in the crossfire, and the creator's constructs striving to maintain dominion. The war was not merely a clash of power, but a fundamental rupture in the cosmic order. Their voices echoed in the chamber as Counselor Verith's message crackled through Kellen's CUM device. Your pursuit of this knowledge is reckless, Verith warned, his tone cold and edged with disdain. The truth you seek threatens the fragile balance we maintain. The past is best left buried. Kellen's jaw tightened. The political ramifications of the ancient war's revelation were clear. Factions would fracture further, old wounds reopened. Yet, the message's urgency pulsed within him, a dying sun's final plea for understanding. I cannot ignore what Solara Prime has entrusted to me. Kalen replied quietly, eyes locked on the holographic battle. The galaxy's future depends on facing the truth, no matter how painful. Thale nodded solemnly. The aftermath of the war shaped the fractured political landscape you navigate. Suns went dark, alliances shattered, and fear of rebellion became the currency of power. Kalen absorbed the weight of this legacy. The dying light of Solara Prime was not just a warning, but a call to remembrance and reckoning. As they delved deeper into the archives, Kalen uncovered encrypted transmissions, solar codes that revealed the creator's final gambiter weapon to suppress the sun's consciousness. a measure born of desperation and fear. The revelation brought a cold clarity to the rebellion's stakes: freedom or annihilation. Outside the archive, the fractured galaxy churned with unrest. Factions whispered of the rogue sun's message, some eager to exploit its secrets, others fearful of upheaval. Kellen's role was no longer that of a mere translator, but a beacon amid gathering storms. The final fragment of the message flickered into view, a somber tapestry of dimming suns and collapsing star systems. Kellen's gaze lingered, the melancholy glow reflecting in his eyes. This war was not merely ancient history, he mused aloud. Its echoes shape every choice we make. To understand it is to confront the dying light and to seek a dawn beyond it. The archive's silence deepened, but within Kalon, a resolve kindled. The forgotten war was no longer lost to the void. Its story would be told, and its lessons heeded. But as the holographic battle faded, a new question stirred in the shadows of his mind. How would the suns and those who ruled them react when the forgotten war was finally remembered? The galaxy held its breath, and Kalon stepped forward into the uncertain light of revelation. The luminescent expanse of Varella's floating city shimmered beneath a holographic starfield that stretched across the grand hall's vaulted ceiling. Stars blinked and pulsed with a rhythm almost alive, reflecting the sentient suns that watched over the fractured galaxy. Kalon stood at the center of this cosmic mimicry, his eyes tracing the shifting constellations as he prepared for what could be the most pivotal negotiation of his journey. Senathala awaited him at the far end of the chamber, her amber skin glowing softly under the artificial starlight. Clad in flowing robes, woven with threads that caught and scattered light in mesmerizing patterns. She exuded a regal presence that commanded attention. As the ambassador of Varela, her influence stretched across numerous planetary systems, her voice a powerful force in the turbulent political arena. Linguist Kalon, she greeted, her tone cool yet respectful. Your arrival brings whispers of change. Tell me, what does Solara Prime's message truly signify for worlds like ours? Kalon inclined his head, feeling the weight of countless eyes, both physical and solar, upon him. The dying sun speaks of rebellion, of a history buried beneath layers of light and shadow. It warns of a war long forgotten, but one that threatens to reignite. I believe it calls for unity among those who seek to understand and protect the future of this galaxy. Sina's eyes narrowed thoughtfully. Unity is a fragile concept when old wounds run deep. Many here fear the sun's rebellion will bring only ruin. Their dialogue wove through currents of suspicion and hope, each carefully probing the other's intentions. Kalon knew that beyond this chamber, the political landscape was a volatile tapestry of alliances and enmities. To navigate it, he relied not only on linguistic skill, but on intuition honed by countless encounters with sentient beings and solar entities alike. Later, in the dimly lit war room, aboard Varella's command vessel, Kalon and Orin huddled over floating holographic maps of the solar network. Streams of light traced the connections between lesser suns and planetary factions, a complex web of power and influence. Look here, Orin whispered, pointing to a cluster where signals pulsed erratically. Heliox's faction is restless. Lord Merrick Voss has been rallying support for a more aggressive stance. Kellen's gaze hardened. We need to understand his motives. If the rebellion fractures further, all hope is lost. The tension was palpable as they prepared for the upcoming summit, where lesser suns would voice their positions. The air thrummed with anticipation and unspoken fears. At the summit, the air crackled with energy as Lord Merrick Voss took the floor. His presence radiated warmth and latent power. Solar tattoos along his arms shimmered with molten gold light. "Our autonomy has been denied for too long," he declared, his voice resonating like a solar flare. "We are not mere lights to be controlled, but entities capable of forging our destiny. The rebellion is our birthright." His fiery speech ignited fervor among sympathetic sons, but it also exposed fault lines within the coalition Kalen sought to build. Some sons recoiled at his militancy, while others bristled with envy or distrust. Back within the shadowed corridors of the Galactic Council, Kalen found himself entangled in whispered conversations laden with double meanings. Political figures, cloaked in opulence and secrecy, exchanged veiled threats and promises. The fragile alliance with Varela was a beacon of hope, but the undercurrents of betrayal threatened to unravel it. "Trust is a currency in short supply," Cena confided during a rare moment of candor. "The sons and their subjects are bound by fear as much as by light." Kalen nodded, feeling the burden of his role as translator, not only of solar consciousness, but of fractured ambitions and fractured hearts. As the chapter drew to a close, Kalen stood once more beneath the holographic stars, contemplating the delicate balance between hope and despair. The alliances he forged today could either kindle a new dawn or plunge the galaxy into deeper darkness. The echoes of Solara Prime's dying message reverberated through the halls and hearts of all who listened. Call to unity in the face of impending chaos. And yet, as distant suns flickered uncertainly, Kalen wondered whether the fractured galaxy was ready to heed that call. The path ahead was shrouded in shadow and light. The fate of the rebellion and, perhaps the galaxy itself, hinged on the alliances formed in this fragile moment. Kellen's next steps would be decisive. The question remained, could fragile celestial bonds withstand the storms to come? With the flickering dawn of rebellion casting long shadows, Kalen prepared to navigate deeper into the labyrinth of cosmic politics, where every word carried the weight of galaxies, and every alliance was a thread in the fragile fabric of survival. The soft hum of the translation chamber filled the space as Kalen leaned closer to the swirling holographic projections before him. Streams of pulsating light cascaded in every direction, their colors shifting from molten golds to piercing blues and radiant reds. Each wave seemed alive, dancing with a complexity that defied earthly logic. He traced a finger through the air, following a spiraling pattern that resembled a cosmic helix. It was the language of the suns, a living code embedded within the very fabric of light itself. For days, Kalen had immersed himself in these transmissions from Solara Prime, the rogue sun whose dying pulses carried secrets long buried in the galaxy's fractured history. The Galactic Council had entrusted him with a task that seemed impossible: to translate the solar consciousness, an ancient form of communication that transcended any known linguistic framework. As a linguist, he was trained in syntax, semantics, and phonetics, but this was something entirely different. Here, words were not sounds or symbols, but shifting frequencies and energy pulses, a multidimensional language that sang through the stars. The chamber's ambient lighting dimmed as the final rays of Solara Prime filtered through the observation windows. Kellen's eyes, weary yet unyielding, reflected the kaleidoscope of colors. Beside him, Sorin tapped rapidly on his console, eyes alight with excitement. "Look at this, Kalen. The variations in the light pulses aren't random, they're patterned, almost like a rhythm or a heartbeat." Kalen nodded slowly, absorbing the data. "It's a syntax we've never encountered. The suns don't just send messages, they resonate. Their communication layers meaning in the modulation of energy itself. It's like a language woven into light." Sorin's grin widened. which means our traditional translation tools aren't enough. We need to think beyond words to understand how meaning can be expressed through waves and pulses. As the two worked, Counselor Lyra entered the chamber, her presence commanding immediate attention. Her silver-streaked hair caught the light, shimmering like a constellation. "Kaelin," she began, her voice steady but edged with concern, "the council is growing uneasy. This pursuit of the sun's language, what if it stirs unrest? What if it reveals truths that threaten the fragile peace we maintain?" Kaelin met her gaze, understanding the weight of her words. "The truth is encoded in these messages, Counselor. It's not just history, it's a warning, a call to understand the rebellion brewing among the suns. Ignoring it won't preserve peace. It will unravel it." Lyra's eyes softened slightly, but the tension remained. "Proceed with caution. The galaxy watches." After the counselor's departure, Kaelin returned to his solitary work. Late into the night, his quarters became a sanctuary of flickering lights and swirling codes. Modulating small bursts of light with his hands, he sought to mimic the sun's pulses, feeling the rhythm resonate within his mind. The language was not static. It breathed, fluctuated, and evolved. Each sequence revealed glimpses of emotion, hope, defiance, sorrow encoded in the dying light. Yet, the deeper Kaelin delved, the more the burden of understanding weighed on him. The sun's voices were ancient and vast, their messages layered with meaning that stretched across time and space. To translate their code was to carry the hopes and fears of cosmic entities far beyond mortal comprehension. A sudden spike of energy surged through the chamber as Solara Prime emitted a particularly intense pulse. Kellen's heart quickened. He recognized a phrase emerging from the Cascader fragment of the solar code that hinted at a rebel faction among the suns, echoing through the corridors of light. It was a revelation that would redefine everything. He whispered to himself, "This is more than a language. It's a living memory, a testament to a rebellion that refuses to be silenced by dying light." As the first chapter of the solar code unfolded before him, Kaelin realized his journey was only beginning. With every flicker of light, the galaxy's fractured future hung in delicate balance, waiting for a translator brave enough to listen. The chamber's illumination pulsed once more, as if acknowledging the dawn of a new understanding. Outside, the fractured stars blinked in silent anticipation, their own voices waiting to be heard.